Welcome back, everyone, to Double Take, an NFL podcast streaming everywhere you get podcasts and also on YouTube. I'm your host, David, joined by my co-host, Daniel. And once again, after a Philly beatdown, we have Mr. Savage in the house. How are you, man?
Doing good, brothers. How y'all doing?
Doing great. Better than the Eagles fans, that's for sure.
Got some roasted bird on Sunday night. It was good.
How was Steven after the fact? I mean, because I know, did you guys watch the game together, right?
Yeah, we watched the game together. We were watching at a friend's house, and it's what you would expect in terms of like the environment. He was the only Eagles fan surrounded by Cowboys fans. Not only was he, and not only were there Cowboys fans there, but we had a San Francisco 49er fan also there. And so it was pretty rough for Steven. He had a pretty difficult night, but David, you got to know him. He's an amazing guy, such a chill dude.
He's a good dude. Yeah.
And so he took it like a champ. He really did. Yeah, it was just, I mean, but to be fair, like as we're getting into it, like we're gonna talk about and we're gonna kind of agree, like the things that we said about Philly, even what Steven had said about Philly came to fruition. And for me, that's what I feel like we needed. Because it's one thing for us to say that. It's one thing for us to say what we've seen, but this is a guy who's watched every snap of his Eagles. And the things that he was saying were the same kind of things that we were saying about the Eagles team. And that's what happened in the game. And so, yeah, but he took it like a champ. So when we get into it, Steven, I got your back, man. Like, I know everything that you and I said about the Eagles came true, and we're going to talk about it right now.
Yeah, I mean, so let's get into it because we have a jam-packed show for you today. And so we're going to obviously talk with Cowboys football. So the Cowboys beat down the Philadelphia Eagles 33-13, and they've taken first place in the NFC East for the time being. But in that, the offense played pretty well, and they made the plays that they needed to. Defense took the ball away 3 times and held the Eagles to 0 offensive touchdowns in the game. And then, obviously, Brandon Aubrey nails 45, 50, 59, and 60-yard field goals. And for the season is 30 for 30. Steven, or Savage, we'll start with you, man. Or Dan, you have something you want to say real quick?
No, I just wanted to say really quick before Savage gets in here. Dude, I had Brandon Aubrey on my fantasy team. 23 points as a kicker.
Yeah, man. He did it for me too.
23.
Yeah.
It was crazy, but go ahead, Savage.
Whew, man. So talking about Brandon Aubrey, fun fact here. My uncle works with Brandon Aubrey's dad. Like they work like 3 feet away from each other. And so they just every Monday morning, man, they just go crazy about how Brandon Aubrey did that last game. But yeah, I mean, you look at Brandon Aubrey, and it's not just that he's making these kicks. It's how he's making them.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember like Brett Maher last year or in years past, whenever we had him, I feel like we had him 15 different times on the Cowboys or any like past kickers we've had. You even had this a little bit with Dan Bailey. Dan Bailey would make the kick for the most part, but sometimes it would be, a little like it was a little scary while you're watching the flight path of that ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brandon Aubrey, this guy, it's right down the middle.
Every single time. Every single time.
That kick he hit from 60, Daniel, that would have been good from 70.
70, yes.
Like that would have been,
yeah.
And it was down
the money. It was strong. It was down the middle. It was a thing of beauty.
Did you hear the story about how Brandon Aubrey practiced kicking, like how he got good at kicking field goals and whatnot?
No.
I was talking about this with one of the other pastors at the church I work at. He was talking about how Brandon Aubrey, whenever he was like first learning to kick a football or whatever, he didn't have a goalpost to practice at. So he would just line up a ball in front of a telephone pole and practice kicking the telephone pole. That's why he is so accurate, because he's not used to trying to get it in between however wide the uprights are on a football goalpost. He's used to hitting a telephone pole right down the middle every single time. So that dude, he's a beast, man. That's just he has been a revelation for our team. He's been so good.
But so obviously this was a great win for the Cowboys. It's a big statement for us because what we've been hearing, especially in this 5-game winning streak, was you haven't beaten anybody. You haven't played big teams. You haven't played teams that are insanely over 500. At first, it was just like they got to be over 500, and then we beat down Seattle, and they said, "Well, that's not good enough because they were barely 500." So now we get the Philadelphia Eagles. They come into Arlington, and we beat them down. Dak Prescott continuing to look fantastic as our starting quarterback this season, but as we talk about it, as we continue on this difficult stretch, because we still got Buffalo coming up and Miami coming up on our schedule, and Detroit on top of that. Savage, again, I'm going to start with you. How confident are you in Dak Prescott as your starting quarterback heading into this stretch of the season? I mean, we're not talking about postseason yet. We're talking about right now in the regular season to finish this one out.
Yeah, I would say that I'm about as confident as I would be with any other quarterback in the league. In the sense of like any of those other upper echelon guys, I don't think there's a reason to be more confident in anyone else outside of Dak. So you look at the defenses that we have coming up. You have Buffalo's defense, which can be had. The reason why Josh Allen's putting up crazy stats and they're 7-6 is because that defense isn't that good, right? So you have Buffalo's defense. I trust Dak against Buffalo's defense. You have Miami's defense. If Will Levis can score 14 points in 2.5 minutes on that defense, I can't wait. I mean, we honestly forget 70 points that Miami put up. We'll put up 71 against Miami. I mean, we're going to trash Miami, which I have a couple friends who are big Miami Dolphins fans. Can't wait to make fun of them in the group chat about that game. You have Detroit's defense. Very gettable. It's going to be easy. And then at Washington, like Washington is the defense I fear the most. And it's Washington. Like, I'm not scared about those guys. So for the remainder of the regular season, I feel 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 on Dak. Of just, I trust him. He's been doing great. I think it's not just Dak. I think it's Dak and McCarthy together. And I trust those guys to straighten out the ship. A quick shout out to one of my good friends, Ty Polk. This guy's been trying to convince me. He's like the U of Texas, David, but he's moved off to Tennessee now. But he's been trying to convince me about how Dak is going to be that guy. Dak is going to be that guy. And I kept on. I was a Romo fan, Romo apologist. I've always had Romo above Dak in my quarterback rankings. But I got to say, he was right. This guy, I've never seen Romo orchestrate an offense this good for this long like Dak has. And so I trust Dak. I look at this schedule and I say, at worst, this is going to be a 3-1 close to the year.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel, you?
Yeah, like I agree. After seeing what Miami did Monday night, they don't scare me right now, especially their defense. At the beginning of the year, if you would have asked me, hey, if Dak's going to have to do a shootout with Tua and Tyreek Hill, then that's like, you got me, because their offense was not what it is right now. But I'm telling you, if we need to put up points and we need to do a shootout with Miami, I'm very, very confident that Dak can do that. I'm with Savage. Like, I'm at a 10 out of 10 right now. With Dak, because he moves the ball efficiently. The red zone play calling has been way better than it was in the beginning of the year. Dak is starting to not only treat CD like a number one wide receiver, but he's able to spread the ball around to everyone else. Like Michael Gallup is starting to get some run. Brandon Cooks is starting to get some run. Even Fergie is starting to get some run in important parts of the game. And so for me, I feel very confident about what Dak is going to be able to do moving forward, because like Savage said, these defenses that he's about to go up against, very gettable. Very gettable. You look at Buffalo. Josh Allen is going through this thing where he's struggling to score points. Like there would be a game where, like against Philly, that he'll go crazy, but against Kansas City, I believe Dallas has a better defense than Kansas City right now. And look what they did to him. So I'm very confident in that. Miami, again, their defense is very, very touchable. Ever since Jalen Ramsey came back, they've been getting better, but at the same time, like they're just picking on the other corner at this point. And so, again, the Lions, I think the Lions are frauds. They've been very fraudulent. Ever since their bye week, they've struggled.
Since they became a team.
Like
Really.
ever
And
since
people started
giving them love and giving them hype, they've kind of been struggling to find what they are offensively, defensively. They've struggled. And so, losing to Chicago, they should have lost to Chicago twice. But they were able to get the comeback win. But they should have lost both of those games. And so, and we've been, talking about how, is Justin Fields that guy? Do they need to go and find someone else? So we were already having conversations about how bad Chicago was. And look what they did to him. You don't think Dak and company are going to come in and take advantage of that?
And I think it's a home game, isn't it? They play us here.
It might be a home game.
Yeah, they're coming to Dallas.
Yeah, so
it's our last home game of the year.
So there you go. And then Washington, we already put the work on Washington. And so I'm not worried about that either. But in terms of like Dak Prescott's play, he's a front runner MVP right now. And I think he's going to continue this brand of football just because what we're asking him to do, we're not asking him, hey, throw 50-yard bombs. No, be efficient. Take what the defense is getting you. Get out of the pocket. Get first down with your legs if you need to. And let's keep this thing going. And he's been doing that consistently. I think he's found his rhythm. He's found the plays that he likes, what he likes to call in certain situations. And so, but yeah, if you're asking me my confidence in Dak, it's at a 10 out of 10 right now.
This is music to my ears. A lot of people told me that, especially what Dak has shown in the past, that was Dak's ceiling, that was as good as Dak Prescott was ever going to be. And Savage, I think you nailed it on the head. I think the reason why Dak is playing so good, I think Dak has always been able to play this way, but it wasn't until Mike McCarthy became the play caller for Dak Prescott. It's just a perfect marriage that they have going on together. There's trust there now. And you're seeing Mike McCarthy calling plays in a way to where it's like we're going back in time with him and Aaron Rodgers of them just knowing what to do in the situations. We're finding out how intelligent Dak Prescott is actually as a quarterback and his ability to move out of the pocket and continue to make plays, whether that's throwing it downfield to CeeDee Lamb. And here's the thing, especially what we've seen. Yes, we're not asking Dak to throw 50-yard bombs every single play, but he's still making those throws in these kind of games. Throwing bombs to Michael Gallup in the fourth quarter when you're already up, hitting Brandon Cooks on a double post route with CD on the taking closer to the ball and just putting it right on him. We're seeing Dak perform at a very, very high level, but it's because of the job that Mike McCarthy has done to really put this kind of offense together for Dak Prescott that makes the game just easier for him, to the fact that he's changing pass protections at the line. And so I think I've always been confident in Dak, but not necessarily in the play caller of who's calling plays for him. But now that's not an excuse now. We can't say that because Dak has been playing at a very, very high level, which I think puts even more pressure, on Dak Prescott heading into the postseason. It's because, okay, Dak, we've seen you play this well. Yes. We know that you're an MVP kind of quarterback because you've proven it over these past 8 weeks that we've seen.
Yeah, almost 2 months.
And so because of that, there's no excuse. You can't lose to any other team than maybe the San Francisco 49ers. But even in that game, we're expecting you to play well, or at least better than what you've played, especially in that week 5 matchup. And so it's on him. It's up to Dak at this point in the season to step up and to play. But in terms of confidence level of how I'm like, do I believe he is going to do that? I absolutely agree with that. But let's continue to talk about the Eagles game that we just saw. Savage brought this question up, and I think it's a really, really good question. Savage, just go ahead and explain it and explain where you're coming from on this about if the Cowboys should have won this game.
Yeah, so really quick, can I just say two more things about this game real quick before we get into it? One, I'm so proud of our run defense. DeAndre Swift, 11 rushes for 39 yards.
Yeah.
So happy about that.
Stifle.
Secondly, and then what's the other Stevens last name?
Burgos.
Okay, Mr. Burgos, please cover your ears. But it appears that Jalen Hurts' Linsanity run is over. So congratulations on your Linsanity run, Jalen Hurts. But it looks like it's done. And my take about Jalen Hurts from last year is still correct. Okay, now here comes the question. Cowboy fans, of course, in our soul, in our bones, we wanted to beat Philly on Sunday night. We needed to beat Philly on Sunday night. I hate Kelly Green. I hate just green in general. I wish Christmas trees were navy blue, right? I'm with you. I hear where you're coming from. But are we sure that it was the best thing for the Cowboys come the playoffs to beat Philly? Here's why I ask. As I look at all of the teams that are going to be making the wild card outside of the Cowboys, you have like the Rams who are going to be vying for a spot. You have the Packers who are going to be vying for a spot. You have, Seattle who's going to be vying for a spot. There's not any outside of us. There aren't any powerful wild card teams that are going to be sneaking in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, with that being the case, who is the current 1 seed in the NFC? It's San Francisco. How that would work out come playoffs is if all 4 of our teams, or all 3 of the teams in the top of the NFC right now win out, which I think is very doable. I think we could win out. I think San Francisco can win out. I think the Eagles can win out. That would mean that in the second round, we would have to go to the Bay to play San Francisco in the divisional round. And I don't know if that was better for us than if we would have lost to the Eagles. Second round, we go to play Philly at the Link in the second round. Personally, I still think San Francisco is a significantly better team than us. Us going to San Francisco, I have that at about a 5% confidence that we'll win that game. I just think that they are a team that's very similar to the Cowboys in how they operate. And they are just a little bit better at basically every position, with a few differences here and there. But I just think they're an overall better team than we are. So here's where I stand on that question. I think that if Mike McCarthy and Dak and the brain trust that is the Cowboys believe that San Francisco and Philly are going to lose another game and we win out, then it was a good move to win for the playoff purposes. But if either one of those teams wins out, I don't know, man. I think it would have been better for us in the playoffs for them to lose. And so that's my hot take. What do y'all think about it?
David, you want to go or you want me to go?
I mean, I can go. I think I don't see Philly winning out. I see Philly at the very least they're dropping 2 games. I think that they're going to lose to Seattle, and I think they're going to, and this is going to be my hot take for the show. I think they're dropping 1 game to the Giants. Tommy DeVito, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later. It's going to be a quick take, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it now. Tommy DeVito is the future of the New York Giants. I mean, he's way better than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is trash, and the Giants are trash for giving him that contract. And when I mean future of the Giants, I just mean all I mean is that he's just a better option for the Giants. I don't
Like
think he's going to
next
be a
4
world
games?
beater.
Like moving
yeah,
forward, maybe for the next 2 years,
I,
give
at
him
least
that
for
opportunity.
well,
At
it
least a
depends on
year. At least a year.
it depends on
Please,
if they have a
please,
quarterback.
Jesus.
I think that if they can't get a quarterback in
Mm.
this year's draft, is what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Obviously, if there's a quarterback, take them. But I'm saying that if they
Yeah.
don't do that, and if there's no quarterbacks in where they're drafting, or if they're not confident in a guy, I think they should go with Tommy DeVito because he's just a better quarterback than Daniel Jones. And I could see at this point in the season, with the way that the Eagles are playing and the way that the Giants are playing right now, I give them a shot for one of these 2 games. But I at least think that I do think that Philly's going to drop another game, and it's going to be against Seattle. And so I already have them having a loss. I also see the San Francisco 49ers possibly losing to Baltimore. I think Baltimore has an insanely good defense. Obviously, they're struggling right now. So if you're asking me if I'm super confident on that, I'm probably about a 55% that's going to happen, but it could happen. So I'm looking at San Francisco losing a game and the Eagles losing a game and the Cowboys winning out. That should be enough for us to get the number 1 seed.
We would get the 1 seed in that scenario.
We would get the 1 seed. And so I think we have a bye. And I feel, I'm sure every Cowboy fan does, I feel better about here because here's the thing. Whether it's going to be in the divisional round or the NFC Championship game, we're going to have to play San Francisco. That's just a fact. And I think that if you're asking me, and if I honestly, they won't tell you this because they'll be like, oh, we're going to beat San Francisco. Even if you ask anybody on the Cowboys, they're more confident in playing the San Francisco 49ers at home than they do at the Bay. So I think that for them, they're probably thinking, we can only control what we can do, so we're going to win out. We need a couple of things to go our way for us to be the number 1 seed. We just need to do our part. And I think that they're trusting that. And I think that's why, I mean, obviously they're not going to tank a game, but I do think that that scenario works better for us because regardless if it's in the NFC Championship game or the division round, we're not beating San Francisco in the Bay. We have a better shot of winning at home.
I'm gonna do my best Stephen A. Smith impression. I don't care. No. I don't care. I don't care if we won or if we lost or not. And the only reason I say that is this. If you're gonna be that team, if you are a true Super Bowl contender, it shouldn't matter where you're playing, whether it's at home or at the Bay. I think the minute that you start calculating, hey, do we need to be at home or away, then you already don't deserve to be a championship team. You should be able to have the confidence and the belief that we'll go anywhere and we'll beat you. And so for me, that's what I want the Cowboys to believe, that, hey, we don't need to be at home. I know it's easy. It's easy to be like, oh, we're 15, we've won 15 straight at home, so let's try to get at home. Sure. Like David said, they need to do their part to ensure that, hey, at the end of the year, if we do our part and some things go our way, we can be at home. Awesome. Great. But I don't think that it's something that we should, we probably should have lost that game. And I know that's not what you're insinuating either. But I think I agree with David. I believe Philly is at least losing 1 game.
I hope so.
It's because like Seattle has been rolling in terms offensively. Offensively, they have, and their defense isn't god awful. They're not god awful. And so because the Eagles defense is kind of spiraling right now, that's what they're doing. They're spiraling. Mm-hmm. They're just letting people go up and down the field on them like crazy. You don't think that DK Metcalf is going to go off on them? You don't think that Kenneth Walker is going to be able to find some rushing lanes and trying to get loose?
If he plays.
If he plays. And so for me, I believe Seattle's a gettable game. I'm with David too. I think the Giants have a good shot of stealing one of those games. just based on how the Eagles are playing right now and based
that.
on how the Giants are playing right now. Like it's not so far-fetched to say that it'll be a close game, knowing that Philly loves to play close ball games with their opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Unless if it's the Cowboys, you know, because
exactly.
they get blown out.
That's what I'm saying. Like even in their wins this year,
Yeah,
it's been close.
right.
Yeah.
So
they're not used to blowing teams out.
Yeah.
So they're not used to that. So I believe it's going to be close games from here on out for them.
Yeah. One quick point about the Giants, really quick, just as it relates to going against Philly. So the Giants play at New Orleans this week. They're currently on a 3-game win streak.
Yeah.
If they win that game, they'll be on a 4-game win streak going into the Link. That New York mindset of like, I don't care who you are, I'm going to go beat you. You got Tommy DeVito's agent looking like a character off of the Goodfellas, you know, just hanging out around him. I mean, if they go into the Link and beat him, that would be fantastic. That would be just so good.
Yeah. And again, it goes credit to Brian Daboll and the job that he's doing in New York, especially with that offensive line that he has there and the team that he has. And he has them playing like this. I think if they continue to play the way that they're playing, Brian Daboll is going to be up again for Coach of the Year. With the way that he's coaching this team. But in saying that, this could be a really quick question, and then we can get into NFL talk. But are we still pretty much on the same boat of one and done for the Cowboys heading into the postseason?
Not necessarily. I'm on the boat of we will win until we see San Francisco.
Yeah,
I don't believe, even if it's in Dallas, I don't believe we beat San Francisco. But if we are the 1 seed, there's a chance that San Francisco chokes a game and we don't have to see them. The only team who I think is better than the Cowboys right now is San Francisco. So I'm saying if we don't see them in the NFC side of the bracket, I think we win out. I think that I think that we could win it all if we don't see San Francisco. We're a good team. How many teams have a top 5 in all of these positions? Quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, cornerback, pass rusher. How many teams have a top 5 in all of those? Kicker. That's 6 positions that we have a top 5 player in the position for that.
Yeah, I would. The only team I think of is San Francisco. That's
honestly,
it.
yeah. That's the first team that came to my mind. Just San Francisco.
And are we sure Brock Purdy's a top 5 quarterback in this league? I'm not.
We'll get into that. we will get into that here pretty soon. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Savage. I think the only team that can beat us is San Francisco. Not that I know can beat us because they have the last 3 times. Now, if this was the same San Francisco team of last year, this Cowboys team can beat them. But they've clicked. They've signed a lot of guys. They made a lot of moves, big moves that they've needed to shore up their weaknesses. And they're playing good ball right now. And Brock Purdy, whether you consider him to be a top 5 quarterback or not, he's better than he was last year. And it's showing. But that's if they stay healthy. That's the thing. If they stay healthy, I don't think that there's any team better than the Cowboys than the San Francisco 49ers. But as we Steven, you brought us right straight into this topic. Obviously, there are quarterback names that have been thrown out for league MVP this season. Jalen Hurts was in it for a while, but now he's out of that conversation as of late because of how his team has performed. But you have 2 quarterbacks on top right now. Obviously, you have Dak Prescott, who is currently the MVP frontrunner. But you have a lot of fans, especially those 49er fans, who are calling for Brock Purdy to be the MVP frontrunner. Savage, you brought it up, so we're going to start with you. Is Brock Purdy your MVP frontrunner? And if not, why? And who actually is your MVP frontrunner?
Absolutely not. No, Brock Purdy is not my front runner. Here is why. You look at the statistics. The statistics are phenomenal. Oh, they're so good. Oh, they're so great. Well, it's because he has one of the most fully loaded teams in the NFL, right? Whenever we saw a couple injuries go down, they lost how many games in a row? 3 straight, right? They just looked terrible without the whole cast of, the Avengers with them, and you look at like Dak, and Dak is my front runner, obviously, right? Call it Cowboys bias, I don't care. You look at their stats, they're basically a wash. So then, in my opinion, it needs to go down to what is as we did our quarterback rankings, the degree of difficulty. So I'm just going to list out players, and I want you to tell me who you would take. And so try to remove any Cowboys bias from you today. You're a GM of a team. If you pick wrong on these, you're getting fired. Okay? CD versus Debo. Who do you want?
Debo.
Okay. Brandon Cooks versus Brandon Ayuk.
Ayuk.
Okay. For this season only, George Kittle or Jake Ferguson?
Still George. Yeah, still George Kittle.
You want
Still.
George Kittle? Yes, you do. Stop it.
Yes.
Stop
for right now. Yeah.
I think overall I would take George Kittle still.
Yeah.
Because of his blocking ability.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cowboys O-line or the 49ers O-line?
49ers.
Okay. Cowboys linebackers or 49ers linebackers? And
49ers.
the defense matters. The defense matters.
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys D-line or San Francisco's D-line?
San Francisco's.
You want San Francisco's D-line. Cowboys secondary, 49ers secondary?
49ers.
I would personally
we
go
just
Cowboys secondary at that point.
If you're telling me Trayvon Diggs is on our team and he's healthy, I would choose the Cowboys secondary.
Yeah. Well, and here to me personally is the biggest one of them all. McCaffrey or Pollard?
McCaffrey.
I mean, come on.
McCaffrey.
So if they have the exact same stats and we go up and down the whole roster and you're like, I want 49ers, I want 49ers, I want 49ers. And it's the same stuff. Doesn't that have to then mean it goes to Dak? Because he's doing more or he's doing equal with less, which means that he is doing more, right? Personally, I don't believe you can be the MVP of the league if you're not the MVP of your own team. Christian McCaffrey's the MVP of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the MVP is basically turned into the best quarterback award. But if we were truly looking at the most valuable player, I don't even know if Brock Purdy's number 2 on that list. Because I know that San Francisco has a fantastic left tackle that they can't live without.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start you look
that
at
he
who's
can't live without.
truly the most valuable on that team. Brock Purdy isn't the front runner on his own team. So how can he be the front runner for the league? I think Tyreek Hill needs to be in front of Brock Purdy. I think Lamar Jackson needs to be in front of Brock Purdy, even though his stats aren't great because his touchdown numbers. But when the Ravens get into the red zone, they're running that ball. That's why he doesn't have as many passing touchdowns. It's not because he can't throw a passing touchdown. That's ridiculous, right? There are so many people who I would say needs to be in front of Brock Purdy. 49ers fans can say I'm a hater. Go ahead, say it all you want. I think about 18 quarterbacks in the NFL can do exactly what Brock Purdy's doing right now in the 49ers offense.
So just to play devil's advocate in this moment, I think the one argument that they do bring up, and I feel like you're going to shoot this down very, very quickly because I would too, is we've seen other quarterbacks in this system not produce in the way that Brock Purdy has, especially this season. When Jimmy G was the starting quarterback of this team, I mean, they were winning in spite of him, some people would say. That you could say the same thing even with Trey Lance in the couple games that he was in there. Like, obviously, he didn't fit in with the system, and look how they did. You bring a seventh round Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy onto this football team, and they have a better DVOA in the NFL, tripling their average, especially over last year with Brock Purdy this season. What do you say to that idea of Brock Purdy in the same offense that Jimmy G was in is playing significantly better than him, and that's why he should be the MVP?
Daniel, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think that's a good argument if you're saying who runs this offense better. Now, because he does that, you're saying that, are they saying that warrants an MVP? Just because you run an offense better, oh, you should get an MVP just for that.
Better than the guy that they had 2 years ago.
It's fair to say, hey, he's a lot better than Jimmy G, but that's not enough to say he should get the MVP.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if you want to make him a Pro Bowl quarterback, absolutely. If you want to determine, hey, he could be an All-Pro one day because of his numbers and because of what he's doing, what he has, fine. But the MVP of the league needs to be someone who is very valuable to the team. They can't live without him.
Not just valuable, but the guy of their team.
Right. And so, I mean, my belief, I think very highly of Brock Purdy. I think he's a great quarterback in the making. I think he has great poise. He has great feel, great anticipation. But like a lot of top quarterbacks in the league, we see Patrick Mahomes. He has no one, and look what's happening to him. Mm-hmm. You need good players around you to be great. You look at like Troy Aikman had Michael Irvin, Jay Novacek, Alvin Harper, Emmitt Smith. Look at Joe Montana, Roger Craig, Jerry Rice, Dwight Clark, Jonathan Taylor. You look at Patrick Mahomes in his heyday, Travis Kelce. He has Pacheco. When he had Tyreek Hill back in the day, you need guys around you. So I understand the fact that you need great players around you to make it work a lot of the time. The thing that for this season, just talking this season, the 3 games without Debo hurt him. You know what I mean? Like, had he played the same way that he'd been playing without Debo Samuel, then that's a better argument for Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, we were having conversations, man, he misses Debo. He misses Brandon Ayuk. He misses Trent Williams. I think that is what's hurting him right now.
Yep.
And if you're asking me if he's a front runner of this league, like, despite my beliefs of him as a player and what I think he can be, people in the league don't respect him. Let's just be honest about that. Like, this is not about what our feelings are about Brock Purdy. This is how the league and the voters and the masses, what they believe about Brock Purdy. And what they believe about Brock Purdy is they don't respect him as a quarterback yet.
No.
Now, what is going to change that perspective? Him getting it done and winning the Super Bowl, succeeding where Jimmy G failed. That is what ultimately will hopefully change the perspective of some people. Because I mean, Savage, you can tell me if I'm wrong about this, but if Brock Purdy wins a Super Bowl, I think your opinion to some degree will change about Brock Purdy. Like, hey, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback that can play well in big moments. He's not the guy that I'm not saying he's going to be an all-time great, but I'm saying he should be considered as a good, probably top 10 quarterback in this league if he wins a Super Bowl.
My opinion didn't change on Joe Flacco just because he won a Super Bowl. I still thought Joe Flacco was all right.
But the thing about Joe Flacco though is he never replicated again what he had done that season.
Right? Who's to say that Brock?
But had he? But what I'm saying is, if he continues to play this way throughout his career, like he continues to be consistent,
his whole career, sure.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what will change the perspective. Consistency will change the narrative. The thing about Joe Flacco is he was consistent in the postseason, couldn't replicate that in the regular season. And so I think that's the question, and I think that's fair for people to bring up. I think it's fair to have questions about, hey, this guy has a lot of great help on his team. Yes, he's playing well, but he does have help. other guys in this system have gone to the postseason like this. What's going to change the narrative is, hey, when Debo's out for 3 weeks, can you still play that way? That's what hurt him in this MVP conversation.
But to me, that's why I think the opinion of him will not change even if he wins a Super Bowl, because we're going to look at all the weapons that he has on the offense and defensive side of the ball. We're going to see him ball out and play well and be like, yeah, we know you can do that. Because here's what I think, and you guys can tell me, I mean, disagree with me all you want, but I think I'm pretty accurate when I say this. When you look at all the weapons that is on that offense, even on that defense, you can insert other quarterbacks into that and they have the exact same success. Like Patrick Mahomes, you put him on this team, oh my goodness. Joe Burrow on this team with an actual offensive line, insane. Dak Prescott, you put him in this offense, insane. And so Josh Allen, maybe he probably will still throw picks, but at the very least, there's a possibility that he eliminates those because he's not trying to force the ball, because he actually has a running back. And so you can put a lot of people on this team and have, like Savage was saying earlier, and have the exact same results as Brock Purdy is having. The question is we've yet to see a game to where he hasn't had those weapons, and not just do enough to win the game, but I'm talking about you're the reason why your team won. And we could say that about Dak Prescott against Seattle when the defense did not show up at all.
Yeah.
You have to go and you have to beat the Seattle Seahawks. And Dak Prescott went down the field late in the ball game and won the football game.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen that moment from Brock Purdy. And so I think that even if he does win a Super Bowl, if he doesn't have that moment in the postseason, to where the defense isn't playing well, or you're missing Deebo Samuel, or even a Trent Williams, can you still muster the team and play good football, not just in the moments where you need it, but throughout the entirety of a football game? Because again, that's why we had Jalen Hurts as a league MVP, was because he wasn't necessarily playing well the entire year, or throughout these entire games, but when he needed to make the plays the most, especially when everything was struggling and the offense was sputtering, he put the team on his back and carried them to a victory. That's why we had him there.
Yeah.
That's why we had him there. And Brock Purdy hasn't had to do that yet. It's easy for him, and it's easy to do when you have the best roster in football, regardless of if Jimmy G was there before you or not. That's not what the reward. If the MVP was, hey, I'm better than Jimmy G was,
there's an award. There should be an award for that. You know, if that's what's really important.
San Francisco can create that award and give it to him at a halftime game next season if they want.
That's a participation trophy if you're better than Jimmy G.
So that the MVP can't be that. It's when you need to make the plays most, because your team can you be the one to carry your team to a victory?
Yeah,
Brock Purdy has not shown that, and that's why he's not the MVP front runner.
Yeah, and I think that's what would change people's perspective of him as a quarterback. If without the guys,
it's not going to be a Super Bowl.
I'm not saying give him garbage guys and see what he does with it, because no.
Right, that's not what we're saying.
That's not what we're saying. Because like CD is a top 5 wide receiver in people's minds right now. Brandon Cooks, I would say
everyone believes he is a godsend to us.
And I think what they are is Brandon Ayuk and Brandon Cooks. Like for me, that's a toss up, because people have been saying, man, Brandon Ayuk for a first rounder, when Debo went out, didn't step up either. He didn't play well without Debo on the other side. And so what I'm saying is that Dak has help as well. They're just not as great as the 49ers collectively, because I think their numbers aren't gaudy. Like Debo's numbers, you look at Debo's numbers in terms of, like, you stack him up against the top wide receivers in this league, he's not touching them. But what is different is his impact to the team. What he brings, the physicality, the yards after the catch, after the run, they handed to him. And so for me, I think seeing what he does without that Debo guy, doing it without Debo, playing within a couple of your pieces that aren't there, and can you win games? I mean, even against like Minnesota, like they lost to Minnesota,
Right.
and he was the reason they lost that game because of his turnovers.
Yes, 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter
And
that
so,
were not missed routes, that weren't. He just made bad throws.
Yeah, bad reads. Like he didn't see the field the right way for that day.
Well, the first one was a good read. He just missed them. Missed them completely. Just was inaccurate.
And so, yeah, like I'm with you guys. Like as much as I love Brock Purdy, because I do love him. I do love him. Like I think he has potential to be.
He's a future Joe Montana.
Well, he's a 1981 Joe Montana right now. That's what he is.
But Savage, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Here's what it's going to take for me to believe in Brock Purdy. I think it's really simple. After he gets paid, what does he do? Because right now he is getting paid as the last pick in a draft. He is less than 1%.
When you can't sign everybody. Yeah.
He's less than 1% of their salary cap. Whenever he starts making big boy money, like big boy quarterbacks that we're trying to compare him to, which is ridiculous in my mind. Whenever we're trying to say between him and Dak is making over 40 a year. His cap hit is huge. It's not, can you do it without Debo? Can you do it? I mean, anybody without injuries is going to be bad. Can you do it when you can't afford those guys? You can't afford McCaffrey and Debo and Ayuk and Williams and Wagner
and Kittle.
And
everybody.
If you can't afford them all because of how much money you're making, if you can still do it after your paychecks, then I'll believe. Yeah, Daniel.
Here's what I would say to that. NFL owners are getting really good at manipulating the numbers. Like Dak is getting paid $40 million. His cap hit isn't that big. Wasn't it like $25 million this year? They're getting
it's
smarter.
Gonna be like 60 next year.
But guess what they're going to do next year?
They're going to extend his contract.
They're going to not only are they going to extend it, they're going to convert a lot of it to a signing bonus so that way it doesn't go against the cap. So owners are getting smarter at manipulating money. So I believe that he'll still get his money and there'll still be money to pay those players. I don't know if that's going to be enough.
Not all of them, though.
All of them.
Not all of them. And the question with Brock Purdy is that when you don't have the best roster in football, what are you going to are you going to look average at least? Are you going to look good? Because we're not saying that. I would even go as far as to say if Brock Purdy looked even average or just good without those weapons, I don't think we're having this conversation.
We don't have.
I think we're saying it's just like, obviously he could have played better in those games, but he was missing a couple weapons. Like that's what we would be saying. But it's just like,
yeah,
hey,
we do it for everyone else.
Like those weapons weren't there, but he didn't even look good.
He didn't look remotely close.
He cost his teams games. And that's the difference in this conversation. And just the last thing I'm going to say before we wrap it up, and this might be also another hot take. I know I said only have one, but I think I have another one. Like I said, you could see multiple quarterbacks go into San Francisco's offense with this kind of talent, and they could do what Brock Purdy is. I don't know if I would necessarily say that about the Cowboys. I don't think you could plug anybody in there other than maybe top echelon quarterbacks in there.
I mean, Cooper Rush.
No, stop. I'm not even. No.
I mean,
I think the only
games.
Yeah, averaging what 20 points a game.
He averaged wins. That's what he did.
That's what he does. He's a winner.
Him and Tommy Cutlets.
Anyway, I think the only two quarterbacks who really could step into this Cowboy system is Patrick Mahomes, and even then, maybe he could, maybe he couldn't. It just kind of depends. And Joe Burrow. Those are the only two guys that I would say would be able to step into this offense and run it. The only reason why I don't say Patrick Mahomes is because he's more of I'm going to get outside the pocket. I'm going to make these crazy throws. And I just don't know if him and Mike McCarthy would be able to get along. That's the only reason why I'm saying that. I'm not saying because of his talent. I'm just saying because of the offense and the way that it's set up and what it's asking a quarterback to do. That's why I have Dak Prescott as my MVP frontrunner, because as many people would argue, I don't think that you could replace Dak in this offense and it looked the same. You could say the same thing about. You could say that about Brock Purdy.
Okay.
But heading into Week 15, this has been a conversation, especially in the AFC. Daniel and we talked about this last week with Steven, of in the AFC, it's kind of hard to look at who the top team is in their conference. But now we're just going to go broadly. Daniel, I'll start with you, and then Savage, you can pick up right after him. Daniel, who are your top 4 teams in the NFL right now?
I think for me, it's one of those things where, like, obviously San Francisco, Dallas is at the top of that list.
Mm-hmm.
Because out of all the teams in the NFL, they're playing the most consistently. And you look around the league and you okay, no. I'll do it this way. San Francisco, Dallas, Baltimore. That 4 team is a tough one for me. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Because your mind wants to go to Philly. It does. But based on how they're playing, it looks like they're falling off a cliff. That's what it feels like. But behind them, you look at the Buffalo, you look at Kansas City, you look at Miami. Are you scared of those teams? Do they impress you in any way? Even Jacksonville, who looked good in the beginning of this year, is starting to fall off.
That Christian Kirk injury's bad.
It is. It is.
Bigger than I thought it was going to be.
I mean,
my fantasy team feeling it.
Yeah. And so for me, putting a 4th team, like, part of me is like, do we even need a 4th team? Does anyone deserve to be that 4th team? No. For me, I don't see a 4th team that you can put up there with San Francisco, with Dallas, with Baltimore. I can't put another team up there with them. For me, I feel like that would be sacrilegious if I did that. So I'm not going to name a 4th team just because, like, I have no idea. Like, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, I would say I agree with Daniel. First is San Francisco. I think there's a gap. Then I have Cowboys at 2. I have Baltimore at 3. And this is where I disagree with y'all. Y'all think Philly's going to lose 2 out of their next 4. I think Philly's going to be okay. I really do. I don't think Philly's going to lose another game this year. If you look at it, what Philly has done is they have beat everybody. They split with the number 2 team in the NFL, and they lost to the number 1 team in the NFL. Outside of that, they've won. So I have Philly as the number clear 4 team in the league. Personally, I'm not going to put a 7-6 team who's currently 11th in their own conference at the number 4 slot with Buffalo. I can't do that. I'm not going to put the Chiefs, who have proven that they cannot find wide receiver help on that team outside of Rashee Rice. I can't put them at number 4. There's no one else in the NFC who deserves to be in that conversation. If Christian Kirk was healthy, maybe you could argue them over Philly. But to me, Philly has earned the right to be in that top 4 conversation by the fact that their resume, though the wins aren't like a lot of Cowboys wins where they're blowing teams out, just win, baby. I mean, they're winning games still. So they've had a rough 2-week stretch. I don't believe that Geno Smith or Drew Lock is going to beat Philly, even at home. I don't believe Tommy Cutlets is going to get a win. And I don't even know who Arizona – I don't think I can name 3 Arizona Cardinals players. And we played them this year. So I'm personally – I got Philly at the number 4 team in the league right now. I'm not scared of them. But the gap between 4 and 5 is a massive gap. And I have Philly slated at number 4.
I was doing so good. And now you're going to hate me. Oh, gosh. Okay. So obviously, I agree with the top 3. Especially with the way Savage put it. I put San Francisco, Gap, Dallas, Baltimore. And my number 4 team is the Cleveland Browns. Here's why I don't say Philly. I have been on this take pretty much all season long. And the game against the 49ers and the game against the Dallas Cowboys just gave some validity to it. The Philadelphia Eagles are fraudulent. They've been fraudulent all year, and their 10-3 record itself is fraudulent. I think at best their record should be 8-5. I think that they're an 8-5 team pretending to be 10-3. So I don't give them that number 4 spot because they've had to have a lot of things go their way. They had the best duo in football heading into San Francisco. Philly and the refs, who could beat them? No one could beat them. Okay. And so I think that Philly is fraudulent. They don't deserve to be in the top 4 because when it comes to playing good football teams, they don't play well. Even when they play bad football teams, they don't play well. And so that's why they're not in my top 4. The reason why I have the Cleveland Browns in my top 4 mainly is because of the way that their defense has been playing all year long. And the wins that they have on their resume says that they deserve to be a top 4 team. They've beaten the San Francisco 49ers, the Baltimore Ravens, and even though we don't think that this is a legit team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've beaten good teams, and they've beaten good teams with really not a lot at the quarterback position. I mean, you're talking about a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, and you have someone like Joe Flacco looking like he's back in 2013 coming off of a bus. Like, I think that Cleveland has an underdog shot of being a really, really good football team that will make some noise in the AFC playoffs. I think that they have a shot to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that they could beat the Miami Dolphins. I think that they can beat the Buffalo Bills, and they've already shown that they can beat the Baltimore Ravens. And so number 4 to me is a dark horse team. I don't think that a lot of people are picking Cleveland, but I'm going to make a case for Cleveland because of who they've beaten and who they've beaten them with. And I know that you don't, Savage. I'm not saying that he's a top even 15 quarterback. But Joe Flacco, when it comes to the postseason, he has a history of playing really, really well. And I think that he's going to I think he's showing signs of that a little bit right now, especially when you have someone like Amari Cooper on the outside. You have Kareem Hunt, who is playing really, really good, along with Ford, their other running back. And
Njoku has been going crazy on fantasy.
He's been playing well. And then that defense speaks for itself. And so I give Cleveland Browns the number 4 spot in the NFL right now.
I can see that. I definitely can see that because there's games that I've watched Cleveland. I'm like, how are they in this ball game? Like, it doesn't make sense. And then I watch the game, and I see Joe Flacco, like even in his first game, like he's delivering darts to Amari Cooper. I'm just like, well, if you're going to play, just get the ball to that guy. They run the ball really, really well. Mm-hmm. And so that's enough, I think, because of how weak the AFC is this year. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that's enough. That's enough to carry you through the AFC because of how bad everyone else is. So I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, that's a fun take, and all 2 Cleveland Brown fans that watch this show, they'll be happy with you. But I don't see it, man. And Alex, you said they have a chance at being a good underdog outside.
Because I don't think anyone's picking them. I don't think anyone's picking them in those games.
10-3. So I don't know.
So tell me this right now. If they were playing this week, Philly versus Cleveland, who you taking?
I'm taking Philly.
I'm taking Cleveland.
I'm not. I would take Cleveland.
I'm taking Cleveland. I think they blow out Philly. Convincingly, confidently.
Like Savage, you have to understand how bad the Philadelphia offense is right now.
How bad their defense is.
They've played good. They've had gone against 2 great defenses. It's not a bad offense.
Savage, when's the last time they scored over 30 points?
I mean, it's based on that question. I guess it's been a minute.
Like they're not a team that goes up and down the field on people until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
just
and
saying.
And again, you said that they played two great defenses. Cleveland's a great defense.
Yeah, but they don't have a quarterback.
They
I'm
do.
sorry.
They have
but
a
if your
quarterback.
quarterback
Yeah,
looks
5
like
touchdowns and 2 interceptions so far.
if
They're
your
scoring
quarterback,
points.
if your quarterback can star in Just for Men commercials for the touch of gray in his beard, you're not an elite quarterback. It doesn't count. I don't care. It's AFC football. It's AFC North football. It doesn't matter your offense. Joe Flacco is not that guy. I don't know what world y'all have lived in to think Joe Flacco deserves this notoriety. And
In the
the
postseason, he has earned that notoriety.
the
You know,
last
every
time the
postseason
Eagles,
he's been
no, Daniel, this take's about to go back on you right now. The last time the Eagles scored 30 was before they played the 49ers and the Cowboys. Literally
Without shootout? Without shootout.
Yes, 37-34.
That's
almost 40.
That's the only game that they played that was really, really good offensively. Because
That's
Steven
not
was
true.
on this show last week, and his main complaint about this team, other than his defense, was the play of his offense. And he said, and I quote, Brian Johnson has ruined Jalen Hurts.
How many
So
times
they're
if you
not
had to
beating
guess?
Cleveland.
If you had to guess, how many times have the Eagles scored over 30? What would you say? Just off the top of your head.
Maybe like 3 times.
Okay, David, what do you think?
I'm going to go 5.
They've done it 5 times. That's not a trash offense.
Out of a 14-game season?
They've only played 13 games.
Okay, out of 13 games, only 5. And
so more than a
and
third
against
of the
good
time,
defenses, you expect them to put up 30 points against a top 5 defense.
More than a third of the time, they're scoring over 30. Can we
again a top 4 team 33% of the time they're going to score 30 points.
Yeah.
That's a top 4 team. 33% of the year they're going to score more than 30 points. That is not a top 4 team.
I'm just saying it's better than a team quarterbacked by Joe Flacco. Absolutely. And if I go down with this ship, I'll go down with this ship. There's no way you can convince me Joe Flacco can orchestrate an offense better than Jalen Hurts. I don't believe it. If Joe
that's not the question.
So good, why was he on the couch?
That is not the question.
You know,
if Philly had a good defense, you would have me, but they have neither. They don't have that.
They do against Joe Flacco. They'll have a great defense against Joe Flacco.
Again, like David said, they don't play defense. Their wins are fraudulent. What more do you need than that?
At what point are your wins not fraudulent? How many times do you have to win to not be a fraudulent team? Why are y'all turning me into an Eagles supporter here? I don't like doing this, but I have to bring some level-headedness to the show every now and then.
Okay, so if Josh Allen makes that throw, does Philly still win that game? Yes or no?
If Josh Allen makes that throw, does Philly still win the game?
To Gabe Davis in the end zone. If Josh Allen doesn't wet the bed, does Philly win that game? Yes or no?
Probably not, but he did.
There you go.
He didn't make the throw.
There you go.
If Dak Prescott didn't step out of bounds, we would have won against
If Mardell Van Scantley catches that football, does Philly win that game?
Okay, well,
that's already 2 games. That's already 8-5.
Here's the deal.
That's 8-5. That's exactly what David is saying. They're an 8-5 team pretending to be 10-3. That's all the evidence that you need.
No. It makes sense that you're asking all these if questions because y'all live in the hypothetical, in the same hypothetical world where Joe Flacco's an elite quarterback.
Hey, these aren't flag plays. These aren't flag plays. These are, hey, you're an NFL wide receiver. Do your job. That's all that is.
I get that.
That's all that is.
I'm just saying Joe Flacco isn't going to – Joe Flacco looked good against the Jaguars defense, who isn't good. He only put up – did he play in that Rams game? Was that Joe Flacco, the same Joe Flacco that scored 19 against the Rams?
I think he stepped into that game. I think the quarterback got hurt and he played
into that game.
No, he was the starter. He had 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception with a QBR of 49.1.
And he only been Jalen Hurts.
And he only been with that team for 2 weeks.
No, let's see. Did he play in the? He didn't. So he's played for 2 weeks for the Browns. He's 1-1. He's averaging around 25 points. And y'all are sure that he is a great quarterback right now?
Again, Savage, what you're doing is you're going on the hyperbole. That's what you're doing right now. What we're saying is that based on how Cleveland defense is played, if the defense is playing like it is and he's averaging 25 points, you win football games that way.
Okay. I kind of hope that the Super Bowl is Philly versus Cleveland. I kind of hope that's what it is because I'm going to drive to wherever I need to do to watch the game with both of y'all so that I can sit there and watch Joe Flacco have 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and just look at y'all like, I told y'all this is how it's going to happen.
David, answer me this question. Did you say Cleveland was going to the Super Bowl? Did you say that? Or did you say they can make a run in the postseason? Like they can be a good team in the postseason.
I said that they have the potential to be a dark horse in the playoffs and upset these teams. Now,
I'm not saying y'all said that. I'm saying I hope that's what happens.
That's based on your outrage and your reaction. That's what you feel like you already said that we put Joe Flacco on this pedestal of greatness. He's a Hall of Famer. There's no one better than him. When all we're saying that he can play within this system, because he's able to move the ball, score points, something that Deshaun Watson was not even doing.
It's not
and then
my
their
fault
defense are playing top
Cleveland's
5.
The number 4 team in the league. That's not my fault. If you're a top 4 team in the league, you're a Super Bowl contender. Absolutely. That's not hyperbole.
No, not for me. Not
for your brother, and it's your brother's bad take that once again derailed this whole podcast and made us argue about Joe Flacco for 20 minutes. Who's going to watch this segment of Joe Flacco? God,
I will only say this in my defense. You said what other person who would star in Just for Men commercials would we say is an elite quarterback? Kurt Warner. And he wasn't great the entirety of his career, but he had stretches and he had moments in his career to where he stepped up and he played really, really well and got his team farther than probably where they should have been. And I think that Joe Flacco, I'm not saying that he's a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying he's Kurt Warner, but I'm saying that he, in his career, has shown that he is able to, at moments, elevate his football team and play really, really good football. And I'm saying that especially the way that the Cleveland Browns defense is playing, and if Joe Flacco could possibly do what he has done in his career already, I'm more confident in that than in a Miami team, than in a Buffalo team, even in the Kansas City team, just because of how bad Patrick Mahomes' receivers are.
Sure, but
I trust Cleveland a little bit more.
Why do we mention Buffalo with the top teams? They're number 11 in the AFC.
I think because a lot of people would include Buffalo.
I think a lot of people at this point believe that now Buffalo has something to play for. I believe that they're playing out of desperation, and that makes them a dangerous team. Like we've seen Josh Allen, as inconsistent as he has been, there's times where he knows that he has to turn it on, and he can do that. Like he's proven that before. And so I think with that, coupled with the fact that, hey, they're on their last-ditch effort to try to make the postseason, people believe that's enough to say they're a dangerous team right now.
Especially after beating Kansas City.
Kansas City ain't no good either. They got no, especially with Nick Bolton hurt. Like, what are they doing?
I don't know.
If only that quarterback will play better.
Yeah, it's that same team. It's that same Kansas City team that we praise Jalen Hurts for beating, but we'll discount it for Josh Allen. It's the same team.
Y'all, I've never met bigger Joe Flacco supporters in my life.
All I said was, listen, we're not saying he's elite.
That's with the hyperbole that Savage is trying to instill here.
No.
Ain't nobody said he was a Hall of Famer. All we're saying that he can play.
That's all I'm saying. All I say he can play. That's all I'm saying.
All David said was
with the Cleveland team. Listen, do I expect him to do anything with the New York Jets? Absolutely. Do I think that you can put him on any team and he plays like this? No, but I think this Cleveland team is a special team.
Exactly.
Just all together. And I think that
I don't think he played anywhere else.
They just need a competent quarterback. And I do think that Joe Flacco is competent. I do believe that. He's a Super Bowl champion.
We'll see. I could be wrong on this, y'all. I'm not saying everything I say is right. Now, I don't remember being wrong about anything, but I'm not saying everything I say is right.
All I know is that I believe 100% that if Cleveland and the Eagles were to play tomorrow, Cleveland would win.
Give me Philly.
Convincingly.
Give me Philly.
Anyway, we're going to go ahead and move on into another Savage topic, one that he wanted to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit of college football right now as it pertains to the NFL draft. Savage has said, and I'm going to let him explain his take, and I'm going to go ahead and say this off the bat. I don't disagree with him. Caleb Williams. Savage, is he the number one quarterback coming out of the draft or even in college football this past season?
Okay, so this whole topic came out because everybody's just assuming that Chicago is going to draft Caleb Williams with Carolina's pick. That's the assumption. My thought was, I'm not sure that Caleb's better than Justin Fields. I think that you put any quarterback behind that abysmal offensive line, they're going to look bad. I think you'd probably be better trading out of that number one pick and getting yourself a really good offensive lineman or two. So, do y'all have a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen next to you right now?
I have my laptop with a Google Docs open right now.
Okay, here's what I want y'all to do. I want you to write two different categories, okay? We're going to do a Nick Wright special, a blind reveal between player A and player B. And this is only going to be passing statistics, okay? So for player A, I want you to put 68.6%. That's completion percentage. 388 attempts. 3,633 yards. So 3,633 yards. 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Okay, player B, 72.2%. 327 attempts. 3,812 yards. 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
I already know what these stats are.
Of course you do. And then player C.
Oh, okay. Player C.
65.9%. 466 attempts. 4,218 yards. 33 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Which of those three players, if you had to rank those three just on passing alone, how would you rank them? A, B, and C. Ready, set, go.
I already know. It's going to be player B, player A, and player C.
So you have player B, player A, player C right now?
Uh-huh.
What is the gap between A and C, in your opinion?
Oh, man. There's a huge gap. I mean, you're talking about almost 100 more attempts for just 600 more yards and 3 more touchdowns. And player C is already at 9 interceptions.
Okay. And then what's the gap between A and B?
Not a lot.
Not a lot?
Not a lot.
So to use your same logic, you get about 60 more attempts with player A, and player B has about 200 more yards. And then 30 touchdowns to 5 interceptions versus 40 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So you get 10 more touchdowns and 1 less interception. So how you rank these quarterbacks, you have Jaden Daniels number 1, Caleb Williams number 2, Michael Penix number 3. That's how you have those ranked. But now let me give you rushing stats. Caleb Williams had 136 rushing yards this year and 11 rushing touchdowns. Not terrible, right? I mean, that's not the worst. With Jaden Daniels, you have 1,134 rushing yards. He has over 1,100 rushing yards and 10 rushing touchdowns. Bro, this isn't even close when you add in the rushing stats. Clearly, Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback coming out of this draft. And you can say it's because I'm an LSU fan. Go ahead. But I also know who won the Heisman this year. I also know who won the Quarterback of the Year award. I'm just saying, if I was Chicago, no way I'm going with Caleb Williams over Justin Fields. someone who's already been in your system a few years, who you've given no opportunity to succeed with that offensive line.
Yeah.
So that's my little take on that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that when it comes to what Chicago should do, I think that if they draft Caleb Williams, it's going to be one of the biggest mistakes they ever do in their franchise. And I get it. I think a lot of people are looking at Caleb Williams' talent and they're looking at a future Patrick Mahomes. What I'll say about Caleb Williams, though, is that when you look at him when he plays against good football teams, big time moments, big time games, he hasn't shown up. And is his defense any good? No, but neither was Jaden Daniels. And there wasn't a game that you looked at Jaden Daniels played this season and says, oh, Daniels could have played better. A lot of the times what I was hearing out of LSU was just like, if we even had just an average defense,
would have won the Natty.
So no one is saying that necessarily about USC. I mean, because I watched the Notre Dame game from start to finish, and they rattled Caleb Williams. He did not play well in that game. And yeah, he could put up 33-28. He's never beaten Utah, ever. Never beaten Utah, and that's a division rival. You have Penix, who went into Oregon and beat Oregon. You have Jaden Daniels with arguably probably the second, if not the worst, defense in college football behind USC's. He's still making plays, giving his team an opportunity to the final seconds, and then his defense lets him down again. And so when you're looking at what Caleb Williams can bring to a football team, he's going to bring you a lot of seats, a lot of fans, to watch him play, but it's not going to look that different than what you're seeing out of Justin Fields right now.
Nope.
Because other than DJ Moore, who do they really have?
Nobody.
They don't have anybody. So what do you do if you're Chicago and you have the number one pick? You either can trade back and get some more draft picks to help Justin Fields, or you take Marvin Harrison Jr., another wide receiver weapon out of Ohio State. Who's a stud, who plays really, really good football, who a lot of people are saying is going to be better than his dad. That's a lot of pressure on the kid, but he's that talented. Give him another receiver. And then you have still 2 more first-round draft picks that you can take and really build this football team and actually see what Justin Fields can do. And we talk about this show sometimes in our text. Joy Taylor and Shada McCoy, they're completely wrong about Justin Fields. And here's why. They're looking at his 8-26 record and says, you got to do something with that. With who? With what? With what head coach? He doesn't even have a competent head football coach, someone who is a good offensive mind. And you're telling me that Justin Fields is supposed to be better than 8-26 or whatever the record is with no talent and with no coaching. No one can succeed with that. Right. And so when you're looking at the Chicago football team, first you got to fire your head coach. I know that he's doing pretty good right now, but you got to fire him and bring someone else in who actually can talk football with Justin Fields. And then you need players. You need players. And then if he's a bust, fine. But guess what? Caleb Williams, as good as we think he is talent-wise, it's really nothing. Really nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm with you.
Man.
Daniel, I think Daniel probably might not have anything to say because he doesn't watch college football.
Daniel, come be an LSU fan with me, Daniel.
Hey, honestly, no, I don't watch college football. So, but I agree with everything you guys said. I mean, what I've heard from actual college football fans like yourselves and just other people that I know that watch college football, I think they believe similar to you guys. I think what we've seen or what we haven't seen of Caleb Williams has been the story. What we haven't seen. And then there's other players who, hey, they may not be as big as names, but they play consistently. And the whole thing about the Chicago situation, David, you hit it on the head. There's needs a lot of work. That team needs a lot of work before you can stick a rookie in there with the team that's constructed right now for the Bears. No quarterback. I think you have to be, again, a generational quarterback that's already had some experience in this league to play with a team with that kind of talent level. And I think that's going to be difficult for any guy. So I agree with David. I think you I mean, this was my opinion a couple months ago. It might change depending on how things slide, but getting rid of that pick, getting more assets, getting more players, that's probably going to be what they need to do. And then give Justin Fields an actual chance to be successful. Give him a chance. Because what we believe about Caleb Williams, and again, I don't watch college football, but Justin Fields had a pretty good college career as well. Like he was am I wrong to say that?
I mean, when he went to the national championship game, I think it was against Clemson, or was it Alabama?
I think it was Clemson.
So Clemson, he had a pretty good playoff run at that time. He was playing really, really good football. Actually got hurt in that game. But he made it to the national championship game.
So all that to say,
which is something that Caleb Williams has yet to do.
Yeah. Like you can have all the talent in the world, but it's what you do with that talent. Like same thing. Like I go back to this. I mean, because I love Joe Montana, so I'm not going to apologize. He wasn't the most talented player, but he knew how to win. And so for me, I think that's more important than I think that's what Caleb Williams. A lot of talent. Does he have substance? I don't know. But, take it from a guy who doesn't watch college football.
Right. Yeah. But, yeah, Chicago, use those picks, man. Use those picks to build the team, not to just get a quarterback and then have something. But final topic before we do pick them, and this is just going to be real quick, 2 cents. Savage, Daniel, DeVito or Jones? Who are you taking?
I mean, again, there's not a big enough sample size of DeVito for me to feel good about either one of them. You know what I mean? Like it's like you're taking do you want diarrhea or do you want constipation? Like that's basically what you're asking me for right now. You know what I'm saying though, Savage? I mean, you know what I'm saying, bro? You know what I'm saying?
That's the take. That's the take right there.
You know what I mean? Like what are you asking me? Like are you asking? Like, do I need to take a laxative or do I need to drink a lot of water? Like, what's happening here? And so, I mean, if I need to answer this question,
you need to answer this question.
I'll
take Giants fans some hope.
I'll take DeVito, but I'm looking for a quarterback in the draft or free agency. That's what's going to happen. Either way, I'm looking for a quarterback. Savage, go ahead.
I'm going Daniel Jones just because.
I can't blame you for that. I can't.
Just because, and it's not because I think Daniel Jones is great. Daniel Jones is terrible, but you paid him $160 million. You can't just take a $40 million cap hit. Let a dude who still eats his mom's chicken cutlets to run your franchise? I mean, that's ridiculous. So, no, you got to go Daniel Jones. They already made their decision. They made their decision already.
Yeah,
if we're talking money, I think Daniel Jones is so bad that you eat the money just because you want to get rid of him. Like I think that Daniel Jones is that bad.
We've seen teams do that with quarterbacks that have proven more. They did that. You look at the
so again. Here's probably another hot take, but it might not be that hot. Some people will probably agree. I know Giants fans will definitely agree with me. Tommy DeVito and his this 4-game stretch has already done more than Daniel Jones has in his entire career in New York. Because I think that even that playoff game against the Vikings was fraudulent. I mean, that was a bad Minnesota football team who didn't even show up to play. And so I think that Tommy DeVito, if you put him in that situation, does the exact same thing as Daniel Jones. I don't think Daniel Jones is anything special. I don't think that he's worth I don't even think he's good enough for you to say, well, we paid him the money, so we should see what he does. He's not even good enough to do that. Sure. He's so bad. I'd rather be constipated than have diarrhea. That's me. But heading into Pick'em for this week, it was actually a bad week for both of us this past week.
There's a lot of them.
A lot of upsets this week. I went 5-10 this week. Daniel went 7-8. So Daniel, we were tied. Now you have another 2-game lead over me in Pick'em so far. But let's go ahead and let's quickly get into these games as we're wrapping up our show. First game, Chargers versus the Raiders.
I'm gonna take the Chargers. I mean, I don't like the Chargers at all. I think again, Kellen Moore, David, your take on him is looking better and better every single week. I mean, they're struggling to score points. Quentin Johnson is probably the worst first-round pick we've seen in a while. Because out of that wide receiver position, he's just garbage. Like, he drops too many passes. But at least they have a quarterback. Vegas does not have a quarterback yet, and so for that reason, I'm going to take the Chargers.
I'm going to let you change your pick because Justin
Herbert's
Herbert, he's out for the year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's undergoing surgery right now, so it's season injury on his finger.
So Easton Stick versus O'Connell, right?
Yeah.
Dang. Okay, now this is gonna be tough.
It's not much of a game, so I'm just going to go with the Raiders. I think that they still have a better coach.
I agree.
Than the Chargers. I think
with that news, yeah,
I'm going Vegas as well.
All right, next game. It's Minnesota versus the Cincinnati Bengals.
We don't need to talk about this. I got Cincinnati in this game.
Who dey?
They're playing well. Jake Browning's playing well.
Yep. Jake Browning is playing well right now. Next game, Pittsburgh versus the Colts.
I'm going to take the Colts. Yeah, I'm going to take the Colts. You're going to take Pittsburgh? Wow.
Or wait, is Pickett still out?
I don't think he is.
Okay, then yeah, give me Pittsburgh. I'm trusting Mike Tomlin over Gardner Minshew.
Okay.
Actually, that's not true. Sorry. Pickett is not playing this week. He's out.
So who's their QB?
Mitch Trubisky, and he was horrendous last week.
These games stink.
Yeah, these games are awful.
I'll still go with Pittsburgh.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Indy. I just don't believe in Mitch.
No, I'll go Indy. Y'all convince me.
All right, now this game is actually going to be a pretty good game just because we don't know where Detroit is right now in terms of are they legitimate, are they not? And same thing we can say about Denver because it's Denver versus Detroit.
Broncos country. Let's ride. Got Denver.
This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Denver. Their defense is playing really, really good football. And Detroit's, I mean, you just lost to Chicago. We just talked about how bad Chicago is.
Yeah, I'm going to take Denver as well. It's just I can't shake that loss out of my mind to Chicago. I can't shake it.
Yeah. Next game, I don't think we have to even talk about. Falcons are going to beat Carolina. Carolina's just a bad team. Mm-hmm. Atlanta's not that much better, but I'll give them the edge. Next game, it's Chicago versus Cleveland. Give me Joe Flacco and the Browns, the number 4 team in the NFL right now, over Justin Fields.
Yeah, I'm going to take Cleveland as well. I think that defense it's the strength of the team. It's what's carrying this team right now. So I'm going to go with Cleveland.
If the Bears had a number 2, I would go with them, but I'm taking Cleveland.
All right, next game, the Buccaneers versus the Packers.
You think Green Bay turns a corner, and then they do what they did on Monday night to the Giants. And so I'm going to take Tampa Bay because you know what? I want Baker to succeed. And so this is like purely heart pick over head, but my head is not really. There's nothing really in my head that's telling me, hey, one of these teams is better than the other at this point in the season. So I'm going to take Baker.
I trust Baker over Love, and I don't care anything about I don't have an allegiance to Baker. I just don't trust Jordan Love.
Yeah, I should have allegiances to Baker because I'm in Oklahoma and there's loyalty here. But I'm going to go Jordan Love. I'm a believer in Jordan Love. I think he's shown some flashes at this point, at this stretch of the season. Even had the opportunity to come back against Green Bay, and then his defense let him down. So I still believe in Jordan Love and his ability. Both teams are inconsistent, but I feel like Tampa Bay is more inconsistent than Green Bay is. So I'm going to give Green Bay the edge in this game. Next game, the New York Giants versus the Miami Dolphins. We just saw Zach Wilson show that he could play a little bit, albeit against Houston with a down C.J. Stroud. And then Miami dropping again to a game to Tennessee. I don't know how to feel about this game. I'm going to go with Miami just because they should win this game.
Yeah, give me Miami.
Miami.
All right, next game. We have Tommy Cutlass and the Giants going against Derek Carr and the Aints. I'm going to go Giants in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go Giants too. Yeah.
Give me the Giants.
All right, then you have Houston versus Tennessee. I don't know if C.J. Stroud is playing in this game.
Is this a caveat prediction?
It could be.
I mean, I say if C.J. Stroud plays, they'll win. If he doesn't, they're going to lose.
I'm going to go Tennessee in this game only because, like, Nick Collins is out. Tank Dell is out.
Then yeah, they're not winning. Yeah, I'm going Tennessee.
I just think Tennessee is going to win by default.
Yeah.
I'll stick with Houston.
All right. Next game, we don't have to talk about it. Kansas City, even with their bad receivers, they should beat the New England Patriots.
No, yeah. That's what we said about Pittsburgh against New England, and look what happened to that.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway.
Yeah, I'll go Kansas City.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I might have gotten the game wrong.
What do you mean?
Well, because I have Chargers and Denver.
No, you're right. Yeah, it's Chargers in Las Vegas.
I know, but I have Chargers in Denver. I think I probably just messed up and put them in for whatever reason. Or that might have been last week's game.
Denver and Chargers already have had a game, so you're good.
Okay. So next game is San Francisco versus Arizona. I'm picking San Francisco.
Might work.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, next you have Washington versus the Rams.
Give me the Rams.
Give me the Rams.
Yeah, I'm going Rams too. All right, now the actual game of the week. We have Dallas versus Buffalo.
Give me Dallas. Dallas is going to win this game.
I don't feel great about this, but give me Dallas.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Weather. I mean, the weather looks pretty decent for this time of year.
It's the best that it could possibly be for the time of year that it is.
Again, but it's still cold. It's still cold.
This is going to be a game that it's really going to show you something. Because like Daniel said, even if you don't have Buffalo as a legitimate playoff team, they're still a dangerous team, especially at home. So I think this is a must-win for Dallas to continue to show all of us that this year is a different.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to choose Dallas, kind of in the way that Daniel has picked games in the past of like, I'm picking the Cowboys because they should win this game and they have to win this game.
Yep.
Next, you have Baltimore versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to go Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Yep. Baltimore.
And then the last game on Monday night is the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Seattle Seahawks.
Give me Seattle. We need it. We need it.
I'm going Philly. I don't want Philly to win, but Philly's going to win this game.
I think the best duo in the NFL is going to come back this week, so give me Philly in this game.
The best duo like me and my takes or what?
No, Philly and the refs. They're really good. They play really good together. I think that they're going to make an appearance. The NFL can't have them lose 3 in a row. So I'm going to take I'd give Seattle a shot to win this game, but I think Philly, just at the last second, they're going to pull it out again.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. But that's going to do it for us here on Double Take, an NFL podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Savage, thank you for joining us in this conversation. Love you, even though you don't love my takes, and I derail the show every time you come on this show. But it's been a blast talking with you.
Oh, man. Good to see you guys. Hope y'all have a great day.
See you guys.
Yeah. So for Steven and Daniel, this is David on the show. Have a great weekend of watching football. And until next time, God bless.